There's a building material sitting at the bottom of every fire pit in the country right now. Most people shovel it out, throw it away, treat it like garbage. But for over 2,000 years, across Rome, Greece, and the greatest city on earth, builders used it to raise walls so strong that modern artillery took 7 weeks of continuous bombardment to crack them. Then in 1453, one single year, that knowledge vanished. Not by accident, not by war, by silence. And the industry that filled that silence is now worth $1.82 trillion a year. What they replaced it with costs you thousands. What they buried costs nothing. And in the next few minutes, what has been hidden since 1453 is about to become the most useful thing anyone has ever told a homeowner. Welcome to HiddenFixLab, the channel that goes looking in the places the building industry hopes nobody ever looks. Now, before we go any further, if you are watching this and you have never subscribed, do this one small thing right now. Hit that subscribe button. Think of it like I'm asking your grandfather to write down a recipe he has been keeping in his head for 50 years. Do it now, before the moment passes. These are the videos that tend to disappear quietly from recommended feeds. And drop a comment below. Where in the world are you watching from right now? The answers always surprise us. In the summer of 1453, the greatest city on earth fell silent. Constantinople, the city that had stood for over 1,000 years at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, was gone. The Ottoman cannons had finally broken through, but historians who studied the siege records later discovered something that never made it into the school textbooks. The walls did not fail because the construction was weak. They failed because 7 weeks of the largest artillery bombardment the medieval world had ever seen simply ran out of time to repair between strikes. The chemistry inside those walls was still working. The stones were still hardening. That is not a detail the building industry ever wanted widely discussed. What those walls were made of goes back much further than 1453. Archaeological teams working across the Mediterranean in the late 20th century began finding something consistent in the mortar of ancient structures that had survived for over 2,000 years. They found ash, not stone, not iron, not any ingredient that required a factory or a supply chain. Just ash, mixed with burned lime and packed earth, triggering a chemical reaction that produced a binding compound stronger and more durable than anything the modern construction market sells by the bag. The Romans called the method opus cementitium. They built the Pantheon with it in 125 AD. That structure still stands today with no cracks in its unreinforced dome after nearly 1,900 years of weather, weight, and time. The Greeks were using volcanic ash mortars for waterproof cisterns as early as 600 BC. Excavation records from the Minoan civilization on Crete, documented in archaeological surveys published through the British School at Athens, show slaked lime combined with finely ground ash used in baths and water channels that held for millennia. In Mesopotamia, the civilization that produced the world's first writing system was burning wood and shell and pressing the resulting ash into mud brick mortars that hardened in the desert sun. Modern excavators have reported struggling to break those ancient mud brick structures with contemporary tools. That detail appears in field documentation that receives almost no coverage in mainstream construction literature. The Byzantine Empire inherited every one of these techniques and preserved them across 1,000 years of continuous urban civilization. Their builders understood that lime and ash, pressed into earthen construction, produced walls that grew harder over time rather than degrading. When Constantinople finally fell on May 29, 1453, the last unbroken institutional chain connecting 2,000 years of ash-based construction knowledge to living practice was cut. The builders scattered, the trade guilds dissolved, and within 400 years, a British bricklayer named Joseph Aspdin had patented Portland cement, a product that required industrial kilns, limestone mining, and a global distribution network. The free version, the one humanity had been building with since before Rome was a republic, was not banned. It was simply never mentioned again. That is just economics. Somewhere inside every handful of cold, white ash sitting at the bottom of a fire pit, a chemical reaction is waiting to begin. It does not need a factory to start it. It does not need heat above what a campfire produces. It needs two things: calcium hydroxide from burned lime or wood ash itself, and water. The moment those three elements meet inside a soil matrix, something happens that the concrete industry has never been able to patent, bottle, or own. The wall starts building itself from the inside out. The process has a name. Scientists call it the pozzolanic reaction, named after Pozzuoli, the town near Naples where Roman engineers first quarried volcanic ash in industrial quantities. When wood ash is introduced into clay soil and water is added, the silica and aluminum oxides in the ash react with calcium hydroxide to produce calcium silicate hydrate. That compound is the primary binding agent in Portland cement. The critical difference is that Portland cement produces it artificially inside a kiln burning at over 1,400 degrees Celsius. Wood ash produces the exact same molecule at room temperature inside the wall for free. A study published in the journal Construction and Building Materials confirmed that wood ash added to lime mortar at 20 to 40% by volume, produced measurable compressive strength increases, and demonstrated active pozzolanic behavior throughout the curing period. A second study published in the journal Minerals examined wood ash stabilized clay soil directly. Researchers documented measurable improvements in unconfined compressive strength, shear strength, and a reduction in compressibility across test samples. What the data showed was not a one-time strength gain at the moment of construction. The samples kept getting stronger at day 28, at day 60, and again at day 90. No commercial concrete formulation currently sold carries that performance curve. Portland cement reaches peak strength early and holds. Ash-stabilized earth continues hardening for months. That distinction matters enormously for anyone building a wall that needs to last longer than a contractor's warranty period. The commercial building industry has known about pozzolanic chemistry since at least the mid-20th century. Cement manufacturers quietly use synthetic pozzolans, fly ash from coal plants and silica fume from industrial smelters, as partial cement replacements in high-performance concrete blends. They add the pozzolan. They charge a premium for the product. They never once mention that a homeowner's cold fire pit contains a naturally occurring version of the same ingredient. That is not an oversight. That is just economics. The year was 1824. A British bricklayer named Joseph Aspdin stood in a small workshop in Leeds, England, and filed a patent for an artificial binding material he called Portland cement. The name was chosen deliberately. It resembled the color of Portland stone, a prestigious building material quarried from the Dorset coast and used in the finest structures across England. The branding was calculated from the first day. What Aspdin had created was not a superior building material. What he had created was a building material that required his factory to produce it. That single distinction changed the entire trajectory of construction knowledge for the next 200 years. By 1900, the Portland cement industry had established trade associations across Europe and North America, whose primary function was the standardization of building codes. The American Concrete Institute, founded in 1904, began publishing the technical standards that regional building departments use to approve or reject construction methods. Those standards referenced Portland cement almost exclusively. Rammed earth, lime ash. Construction and soil stabilization using natural pozzolans were not included, not because researchers had tested them and found them deficient, but because no corporate body had a financial interest in funding the studies that would have written them into code. A University of Kassel researcher named Dr. Horst Schroeder published documented findings in the 1980s demonstrating that natural pozzolan stabilized earthen walls met residential load-bearing requirements in multiple structural categories. His work was cited in academic literature. It was never referenced in a single major building code revision in the United States or Western Europe. That is just economics. The numbers that followed tell the rest of the story with no interpretation required. The global Portland cement market generated revenues of approximately $326 billion in 2023 alone. The broader concrete products market reached $1.82 trillion. A homeowner in 2024 pays between $8 and $15 per 60-pound bag of concrete mix at any major hardware retailer. A wall requiring 40 bags costs between $320 and $600 in materials before labor, equipment rental, or delivery fees are added. The ash and soil alternative to that same wall costs nothing in raw materials. The industry does not need to suppress that comparison through active effort. It simply needs to make sure the comparison is never placed in front of the homeowner at the moment of decision. Hardware stores stock 40 varieties of concrete mix. They stock 0 varieties of soil ash stabilizer. The shelf space alone tells the complete story. The suppression never required a meeting in a dark room. It required something far simpler and far more durable. Building codes written by committees funded by cement trade groups, contractor licensing programs that teach Portland cement methodology exclusively, and a hardware retail ecosystem whose supplier relationships are built entirely around manufactured products with margins, expiration dates, and recurring purchase cycles. Every generation of builders trained inside that system graduates without ever hearing the words pozzolanic reaction in a practical context. The knowledge does not get erased. It gets starved of the oxygen that transmission requires. And a material that the Roman Pantheon and the Theodosian Walls both prove can outlast entire civilizations sits quietly in cold fire pits across the country, shoveled out every weekend and sent to landfill. That is just economics. In rural Tennessee in 2021, a retired schoolteacher named Gerald Marsh decided he was done paying contractor quotes he could not afford. He needed a retaining wall along a sloped section of his property. 3 separate contractors quoted him between $9,000 and $14,000 for a poured concrete solution. Gerald had no construction background. He had a fire pit, a backyard full of subsoil, and an internet connection that eventually led him to a University of Cyprus study on wood ash stabilized earth. 18 weeks later, Gerald had a 30-foot retaining wall that a structural engineer friend confirmed was bearing load correctly. His total material cost was $47. That $47 covered the plywood formwork lumber, 2 bags of hydrated lime for the surface wash, and a metal pipe he welded into a manual tamping tool. The soil came from his own ground. The ash came from his own fire pit. The wall came from 2,000 years of construction knowledge. The industry had quietly stopped teaching. The method Gerald followed is exact and repeatable. Soil selection comes first. The ideal subsoil composition sits at approximately 70% sand and coarse particles, with 15 to 30% clay content. Topsoil is removed. The mineral subsoil layer beginning 6 to 12 inches below the surface is what gets used. A simple field test confirms workability. A handful of moistened subsoil squeezed firmly should hold its shape when the hand opens, but crumble cleanly when pressed with one finger. If it smears, the clay content is too high. If it falls apart immediately, the sand content is too high. Most subsoils across North America and Europe fall within the usable range without any amendment. Wood ash preparation requires fully combusted ash only, the pale gray or white powder remaining after complete combustion, collected from a cold fire pit and sifted to remove char fragments. Hardwood ash from oak, hickory, or fruit trees carries higher calcium oxide concentrations than soft wood ash, but all fully combusted wood ash from any species activates the pozzolanic reaction. The mixing ratio confirmed across published research and documented field builds is 75% subsoil to 25% wood ash by dry volume. Water is added incrementally until the mixture passes the compression test. A squeezed handful holds firm without leaving moisture on the palm. Formwork is built from standard plywood panels set at 12 inches apart for garden and retaining walls, 18 to 24 inches for load-bearing shelter walls. The moistened mixture is poured in 4 to 6 inch loose layers. Each layer is rammed individually to approximately half its original depth before the next layer is added. Formwork is removed after 60 minutes. The wall stands immediately. By day 28, measurable strength is confirmed. By day 90, the pozzolanic reaction has produced a wall that continues hardening beyond any standardized concrete cure cycle. A thin lime wash applied to the outer surface seals it against rain erosion at a cost of pennies per square foot. Gerald Marsh's wall entered its 4th year in 2025. It is not cracked. It is not shifted. It is still getting stronger. The ash that built it would have gone to landfill. That is just economics.